Okay, so now when it comes to the colour washes, I'm looking carefully at the variety of colours, especially the darkened areas now, and I've come up with a palette using my brown paint and orange paint. I don't know how clear that is to the video. And now what I need to do to these. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to put some washes in. I've mixed up a sort of a browny red and a sort of a pink made out of the same colour, and now I'm going to add a fair bit of water to it to make it into a wash. And before I trial it on my painting, I'm just going to have a look and see how see-through it is. Yeah, that's working pretty well. And my darker tone here, yeah, okay, so that's working quite well as far as a wash goes. Now I'm looking at the areas that I want to now tone. So there's this area across the top of the head here, so just looking at the areas that have the various tonal work in. The top of this tail here and along that edge. Tinge of it down through that lateral line, and maybe even use a little bit in parts of the fins as well. So these areas still require more line. Come and do that over the top of the wash when it's dry. These little areas in here around the gill plates need just a little bit of colour on them. Some of this darker tone down in this area. Around the eye there. Now to the lighter, pinker areas. I don't want you to get too concerned about the colour tones you use. I'm not going to ask you to match perfectly, but I do want you to play with the washes, and I do want you to play with putting in patches of colour where you think appropriate. If you want to take a more imaginative approach to the use of colour, by all means do so. And although I'm happy for you to engage with using the colour any way you like, I would like it to be the light and the dark, or where the tonal range goes, to be based on what you can actually see, i.e. in the lighter areas use lighter tones, and the darker areas use darker tones. Okay, I'm going to let that dry now. Now I'm interested in these slightly bluish areas here. There's a slight blue tinge to the fins in some of these areas. There's a slight blue tinge to these areas here, which on mine so far I've tended to use the pinky reddy colour, but I'm going to come back now with a little bit of blue to see if I can tone them back. So there's my full blue paint. To that I'm adding heaps of water, and it looks to me I might add a little bit of this pinky colour, and perhaps even a little bit of the white to it. Now that has tended to be a little bit darker than what I'd hoped. So now let's add some of that to the fin areas. Just allowing the wash to pool where it will. Those little pools of colour look kind of nice, and they often look quite purposeful, but in actual fact they're quite accidental. You just let it go, and where it wants to pool, allow it to pool. The washier the paint, the freer the movement that you get. Okay, in the fish now you can see that I've used some of my darker colour here to go around the eye to bring in some of those. I've layered it up a little bit through the top here, and then also I have used my black, which I'm just adding sufficient water to it so it makes a nice dark stain to come around underneath the fish here, in order to not only make a possible shadow, but also show up this area here that I want to be to appear to be very, very light. I'm just using a little bit of water to let that run out as it comes out. That's the wash completed. Now when that dries, I'll be able to come back and draw, and then consider what I'm going to do for the shine parts.